and Mutiti Road, and then we have one in just along Mutiti Road called Mutiti 94. And we've recently opened a branch in Nyali along Mount Kenya Road, yeah, and it's up and running. So it's a psychiatric facility, both inpatient, outpatient. And what we basically do is we deal in treatment and management of mental health disorders that you can ever think of, from depression, substance use disorder, mood disorders like bipolar, personality disorders, developmental disorders, and and also substance-related disorders like alcohol use, cannabis use, and even Mira. So we deal with most and maybe all, yeah, to be safe of the mental health disorders that you can think of. So we have a team of psychiatrists, yeah, consultant psychiatrists within our facilities, and also a team of qualified psychologists who are here within us to just help us, yeah, to restore, our lives, and people who are out there that are trying and struggling to get back to their lives. So basically, that is just who Chiromo Mental Health Institution is. And we currently have two initiatives that is really, really making us, have these conversations, and it's offering safe spaces for people. And the first one is actually Book Initiative, which was launched by Her Excellency, the former First Lady, Honorable Margaret Kenyatta. And it seeks to purposefully challenge and destigmatize mental health, encouraging all to open up and share their stories and seek help without the fear of judgment. So basically, offering that health safe space for people to talk and normalize these conversations regarding mental health. And also the Man Cave. And Man Cave now it's 3 years now running, and we have it yearly. So basically, it's a safe space for men to express themselves and express who they are and the issues that they go through. And as a way they can be able to motivate each other and see how they can be able to bounce back from what they're going through. And through that, it's at the end of the day, it's about learning, yeah, and how we can be able to help each other up, because you can't do it by yourself. And it has been very, very successful for the past 3 years, and I will tell you for a fact that a lot of people have quite benefited from this initiative. So that's why this year we are quite excited to have a stellar panel, yeah, of male personalities who are going to share with us the experiences, regarding mental health, and how they've been able to cope up with their daily challenges that they go through in their lives. And first on the lineup, we have currently 5, should be 5 or 6 panelists. And first on the lineup, I want to introduce Ian Kiplagat, right, who is my colleague. He's a hospital psychologist here at the Chiromo Hospital Group. And he is a holder of Bachelor of Arts in Counseling Psychology from Pan-African Christian University, and an advanced diploma in applied mental health practice from Amref International University. He's also an advocate of mental health and has a keen interest in attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or what you know as ADHD, psychosis, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and addiction therapy. So karibu sana, Ian. And next is Simon Bevy, who is, thank you, Simon, for joining us, the CEO of Transformations and Man Enough founder. And I think that's quite interesting, because Bevy is into, has specialized in the family, yeah, and, just what happens within the society and the world at large, and it's because for him, he's looking at, how people can become responsible leaders in these spaces. So in line with his passion for ministry to men, good leadership and prayer, in 2010, Mr. Mbevi holds a bachelor degree in law from the University of Nairobi and a master's of arts in leadership. So thank you, Mr. Simon Mbevi, for joining us today. Next in line is Dr. Amos Kea Alumada. He is a lecturer at Park University and also a marriage and a family therapist, chairman of Kenya Marriage and Family Therapy Association. So we are also delighted to have you on board. Thank you so much, Dr. Amos. The next one, the next panelist is quite an incredible one, Amani Maraga. Yeah, it's Amani Maranga, yeah. And he is an organizational culture whisperer, well sought after speaker, certified mediator, award-winning podcaster, TV host, master of ceremonies, quite a lot, yeah, you can imagine, soul work and storytelling coach, as well as an experienced media and communication expert. And Amani does it all, as he likes to put it. He builds bridges for connection and transformation. So we are also delighted to have you with us, Amani. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Robert Burale. Hope you're doing well today, this afternoon. Mr. Robert Burale is an award-winning MC, and recently he was given that award. And we're here to celebrate you, Mr. Robert Burale. That was really, really incredible. And he's an image consultant, marketing strategist, and an inspirational and motivational speaker. He's also the creator of a leadership school and the CEO of Readily Bold company, he is also the creator of that company. So thank you so much, Mr. Robert Burale, for joining us. And the theme of this year, International Men's Day, which is normally celebrated on the 19th of November every year, is helping men and boys raising awareness on men's well-being, right? So we are going to really understand the dynamics that surrounds how boys have to deal with their issues, and how do they cope up with them, and how do they survive and bounce back. So that is what we are going to discuss today. And there will be questions for discussion. So I will be asking every panelist questions that are directed to them, and they'll give us their responses. And after that, we're going to have question and answer session, which will be now the public asking now either the panelists who they think they would answer their question appropriately, and then we will end the session now with just a parting shot. Yeah. So basically, guys, just to make sure that this session runs smoothly, kindly let's mute our mic. Yeah, and if you are not supposed to speak, kindly just mute your mic, so that we can have like a smooth session, and so that this runs, the way we had planned initially. So the first question I'm going to just direct to Mr. Robert Burale, who unfortunately he can't be able to stay for longer, with us. But Mr. Burale, how are you doing today? If you are on call with us. Oh, so he is not here with us. I've just been told that he's not here with us. Then I will go to Simon Bevy, if you don't mind me throwing you under the bus. And Mr. Simon Bevy, the question to you is, how can men build communities and foster brotherhood for better connectedness? Yeah, how can men build communities, or foster brotherhood for better connectedness?
Well, thank you. And hi, everyone. I'm glad to be here. And yes, I think it begins as men understand that we need each other. I think as we have grown up, we are told big boys don't cry. So we like to deal with our own issues. And many times you find a man is lonely among other men. He's with other men, but nobody really knows about what is happening. So I think for me, the first thing is for us as men to admit and to know that it's important for us to be connected with other men. As I usually like to say in Man Enough, one of the programs we do, that a man is made a man among other men. So the realization that it's important to connect. And number two, then we need to be intentional in reaching out to men within our circles, for example, if it's a program or it's within work. But every man needs some boys that they connect with regularly. There's a commitment to regularly meet up together and have conversation. And within that community of brotherhood, there needs to be a commitment to open up and to be vulnerable. Because you could be in a group, you could be with people every week, but you never really share truly what you're going through. And it's not going to help you. It's when we open up and say, man, I am struggling. Things are thick. I'm not doing well. I need help here and there. Or I'm in a certain situation and I don't know what to do. When we admit that need for each other and commitment and commit to vulnerability, then that group is going to grow into a place where you can now freely connect with each other, talk with each other. I think, around the world, women tend to outlive men. And men tend to have more mental health challenges than women, and part of it is because we don't really connect well with other men, but connect deep enough to bear our issues, as it were, and talk with each other. So I think those are the things I would say. Number one, just an admission of need. And then number two, an intentional connection with a few other men where you meet regularly and you create a safe place. Because a lot of men don't share because they don't feel it's safe to share. They don't want to share something about their lives, and then they are looked down upon as if they don't have what it takes. As we tell each other, you need to man up, you need to be man enough, and you're being challenged instead of being received for who you are and seen for the struggles that you have. So have that safe place and then regularly meet and discuss about our challenges and what we are facing. I think with so doing, then slowly we build the kind of brotherhood that will help us deal with issues out of connectedness.
Thank you so much, Mr. Simon, for that. And maybe because you mentioned something that's very, very important, you have mentioned that we need to have that connectedness and being open with our feelings, and try to communicate within the men in our circles. But my question to you maybe will be, what do you think will be contributing to people being very reluctant to trust even the men who they have interacted with for quite some time? Could there be, some inferiority complex? Could there be some of the things that, men, they try to not show to other men so that they don't, seem to have issues? Is there like, a self-esteem issue that comes along with it? What is your perspective around that?
Yeah, I think there would be several issues that would hinder that vulnerability. Number one is just the cultural belief that would need to be a certain kind of man, a macho man, who doesn't show their emotions, who looks like they're in control. So that needs to be deconstructed. That's what we might show out there, but we are real human beings and we have issues. But number two, I think you could be in a group and you don't feel safe because maybe someone shared their issues the other day and then you had another one talk about it. So there's never been an agreement that this is a safe place. Whatever we share here stays here. In fact, that's part of what we do. To create those self groups in Man Enough, people have to sign up a commitment in the beginning and say, we're going to be sharing some things here. We don't want this to go to social media. This is for us. We're dealing with us. So this is a safe place, and we all commit to that to make sure the things that we share here don't go out. I think without that commitment, and then lastly, of course, the way society has positioned masculinity and the way we have positioned ourselves is that we don't publicly share our issues. I think I always like to give the example, Khalifa, that if my wife was found somewhere sitting either in an office or on the street crying, everyone is going to stop and ask her, what's going on? How can we help you? But if you find a man like Amani, let me use him because he's my friend here, just sitting on the street crying, weeping, of course, people are going to make fun of it and say, look at this guy. Men need to man up these days. What's wrong with men? So society doesn't give us permission, the way we have created culture around masculinities, doesn't give us permission to open up and look weak. And also, we don't give ourselves that permission. So we've got to realize that the only way to be healthy is to open up and realize we have feelings we need to share within a safe space, not out there in public where you might be made fun of. But when we're in a safe place, then we can share with each other and accept one another for the challenges we are facing, and then find support so that you don't share and guys just leave you there. One time, a friend of mine said, he went to a place to get a drink with his boys, and he had been warned by his wife, you're not coming back home. I don't like the way things are going, so find a place to go this evening for the next week or two. And so when he was a little tipsy, he shared with his friends, he said, man, I don't have anywhere to go back to. And they laughed at him and they said, just pewa ingini, have more drinks. You need this. And what happened later, everyone just filed out and went home and actually left him, and he slept in the pub. And after that, of course, he felt, I really don't have boys. When I share, nobody takes me seriously. Nobody is supportive enough to say, how can we help you? They're just moving on. So I think it's going to take a measure of commitment for us men to listen to each other, to listen to a cry of help, and actually reach out to one another and say, let's work together. We are in this together. That interdependence. I think we learned so much independence or dependence that we forgot really healthy living is about interdependence, relying on each other and supporting one another.
Well, thank you. Interdependence is the word. I think that's something that I have really, really picked up, and I think it's really loud. I want to recognize the presence of Mr. Burale, Robert Burale. Karibu sana to the session. And the next question is directed to you. And my question to you is, what are some of other ways that men can express their emotions apart from just talking? Yeah, how would you be able to, maybe give other recommendations of coping mechanisms that men can come up with, just apart from just talking their issues? Mr. Robert?
Thank you, Khalid. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, yeah.
All right, sorry, I had an emergency come on my way back home, but as soon as I get back home, I'll put on my video, but I don't want to be distracted with the traffic and all that. Another way, aside of talking, because as Reverend Davis said, sometimes when men talk to each other, you get other men ridiculing them. In fact, if you study it very clearly, we have now men who are gossips in this country, where you mock other men, and by the time a fellow man is opening up to another man, or to anybody for that matter, the man has reached almost his end. So when a man feels betrayed, he will recoil and not talk. So the men who don't like talking, I would advise, like for me, I have my place in prayer. I have my place where I take a pen and a paper and I write a poem to God and I tell God, talk to me. You understand? Heal me right now. There's that place where a man must be in touch with his spirituality before he can trust people enough, especially after a bad case of betrayal, after opening up to somebody in his moment of vulnerability. So that place, or doing something, go play some golf, hit those balls like nobody's business. There is a place where you just have to release your anger. I was in Zambia yesterday and somebody said something quite amazing, that a bull that is castrated loses the fight. Totally. But when he is not castrated, there is a drive. So I would ask men, that drive, go somewhere else and release that thing. Go play golf. I'm not saying drinking. Go play golf. Go play something. Just do something. Go to your place of worship. That place that you feel you can release. And I do that for myself. I have friends I play golf with. I have my place in spirituality, and also have my mentor who I call once in a while because I can trust my mentor. Sometimes boys, they call themselves boys, the devil also wears Prada and the assassin also smiles. Boys have let each other down and they laugh at you at your moment of vulnerability. So when I need to talk to somebody, aside of going to play golf and my place of worship, I do call my mentor. And I would urge men to find that way or take a pen and a paper and just journal. It is a way of release. As long as you have a place to release, bottling up issues is what comes to the head, and you get a man losing it in depression, which we heard of a case, a man just jumping out of his car, stripping naked on Kenyatta Avenue and sitting naked on his bonnet. I don't think it happened that morning. I think that was just a manifestation of culmination of moments of bottling it up, nobody to talk to, places of betrayal. So we need to avoid men getting to that place where a man dressed very well in traffic just jumps out of the car, removes his tie, suit, and sits on the bonnet naked. We need to help each other on that one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Robert Burale, for those strong commentaries. I think that what has come out is that we need to really speak out, and let's be comfortable about speaking about our issues. Maybe we are not comfortable in our spaces, but at least finding an outlet that is very healthy for ourselves can enable us to be able to cope up effectively with some of the issues that we go through. That can also hugely reduce the risk of us, developing very serious mental health issues that predisposes us now to mental health disorders. So I think what you've just put out there is that we need to talk so that we can prevent some of these things to happen in the near future, because all of us, it seems we are at a risk of developing mental health disorders, and no one is exempted. So I think when we speak our issues, when we express our feelings, and when we see how we can be able to cope, I think healthy, the way you've just said it, healthy coping mechanism, that's very important, because you can cope with your issues by just going to drink. But again, ask yourself, is that problem, has it gone completely, or is there some residuals of the problem that's left? And so thank you so much, Mr. Robert. And I will still pose the same question to Mr. Amani Maraga, just to give us your input regarding that. And guys, you can just, if you have any questions, you can type it in the chat box, and we can be able to also look at them and respond to them when we are having the Q&A session. So Mr. Amani Maraga, maybe can you be able to give us your perspective regarding that? Should I repeat the question, or you actually got it?
Yeah, I think just go ahead. I got it, but go ahead and repeat the question so that the audience has reference.
All right. So the question was, how is there any other coping mechanisms that men can actually use and express their emotions apart from just talking? Yeah.
All right. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the question. And a good afternoon to everyone that's listening. And especially good afternoon to my panelists. Pastor Simon Mbevi, thank you for using me as an example. Now everybody has an image of me crying and wailing on the streets, and I thought this was a safe space. But that's on a light note. So I think the first question is to ask ourselves about just men and emotions. Okay, so we're talking about men expressing emotions, but let's take a step further. And say, it took me about 38 years of living for me to understand my emotions. And somebody had to explain to me 6 primary emotions in which my emotion categories would fall across. That was sad, angry, scared, happy, excited, tender. And I didn't know that there were more emotions than bad and good, because that's what I used to feel. Either I feel bad or I feel good. So I didn't know bad could be any of those 3, or good could be any of those 3, amongst others. And I think that's the first thing to say, that men often do not know how to articulate that emotion. They do not know what emotion they're feeling. So even before we go to expression, how do we help men be able to say, what I'm feeling is sad because I'm embarrassed, what I'm feeling is angry because, or, how do we give tools to men so they're able to articulate their feelings? And I found a fantastic tool online. There's a color chart wheel on emotions, and I tell guys, go look for that, just an emotion color chart. It might help you be able to articulate your emotions. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Because once we figure out what we are feeling, then we can figure out what to express of that feeling. The second thing is to understand that, men need time to express their feelings. Often I've found that, and I know this is a generalization, but most of us need to sit with what we are feeling first before we express it. And why I want to say this is because don't put a timeline on men expressing their feeling, you know? In fact, the greater the emotion, the longer it takes for us to express it. And so, you know, if you understand that, then you can create space for men to be able to express their emotions however they do. But, you know, now to answer your question as specifically, you know, and I'd still say talk is up there, you know, find someone to talk to, find a safe space to talk. I like what Robert said about journaling, my friend Burale, about journaling and writing. I found that very useful. When I didn't know who to talk to, I started a podcast. So, you know, sometimes you just need to say it out loud without necessarily having an audience for your. I mean, it turned out to be an award-winning podcast, but it started out as a way of expressing my emotions and what I needed to say. But here's something I've found very useful for men. Nothing. Men need a sense of nothingness to be able to sort of sit with their emotions. When you take a long drive by yourself and you just have open road, somehow it gives a sense of, I can breathe, when you go into nature, take a walk into Karura Forest, or, you know, there's a sense, there's no expectation or burden, just you and nothingness. I happen to live in the coast, so I have the opportunity of sitting in front of the vast ocean and just see the magnitude. There's a sense of that nothingness that is very therapeutic for men. Those who go to play golf, it's often, I'll tell you, it's not about even the ball. It's not about how hard you hit the ball. To play golf well, and for many sports, and I'd say sports is one way, you have to concentrate on a tiny piece of ball and leave everything else out there. Sorry, there's you'll have to concentrate on a tiny piece of ball for a moment. And in that moment, nothing else matters but that ball for you to be able to hit it for where it needs to go. It is that particular moment when nothing else matters that becomes therapeutic for men. So I'd say find that space of release in terms of nothingness. I don't have another word for it. Maybe Simon, who is often more articulate than I am, will find it. But, you know, where do you find space to breathe, space to just be, where you can be accepted and seen and heard, even if it's just by yourself. And in that space, you'll find a way to express. But, you know, I'd say physical expression for most men is also true. So a sport, boxing, the gym, swimming, running, walking, all those, you know, a way of physics, we tend to convert emotions to physical energy. And so if there is a way you can physically express, you know, push-ups, those are some of the ways to express those emotions. The last thing I want to say, there's a difference between coping and healing. And we've spoken about ways of coping. But coping still assumes that there's a problem to deal with. We are coping with it. We're living with it. And sometimes, yes, we might have to live with it for a long time. You know, something like grief, for example. You know, you might have to live with it for a long time. But there's also a place for seeking healing. And some of the things that we need to cope from, we can heal from. And I think it's important for men to find out, you know, if you're able to pinpoint what the real problem is, then you can start to find the path to healing so that one day you don't need to cope from it.
That's very strong, Mr. Mwani. Thank you so much. I think what you've actually illustrated is that sometimes the problem has not gone completely. Yeah, so coping with it could be at some point you're just trying to temporarily cope up with the issue, all right? But the question is, have you completely dealt with the issue? Yeah, and I think sometimes sometimes we, as you've also said, we are not really open-minded with some of the things that we can do for ourselves. So maybe if you're more open-minded, you can come up with, better ways to, to look into our situations and to deal with them. Yeah. So open-mindedness. So thank you so much, Mr. Amani Maraga. That was quite powerful. The next question goes to Dr. Amos. Karibu sana to the conversation, Dr. Amos Care. And my question to you is, what are some of the top mental health concerns that affect men within our country? With your experience, working at the university and also working with the youth, teaching, what are some of the things that you've seen out there, or personally you have experienced that you feel like it's a concern to our country? Dr. Amos, go ahead. You mute your mic. You can unmute it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Bwana Khalidi, for inviting me to this conversation with the great man. Simon, hi. Yeah, I was in his program in 2019, I think, Battalion 26, I guess so. And I've met with the Robert and Ian Kiblagat. If I'm not very wrong, somebody I know. I am not so, he'll tell us, but I'm thinking that I know him somehow. I haven't met Amani, but I'm hoping that we'll have an opportunity to meet as men so that we can be men and grow to be men. And so just listening to my predecessors, they have laid the foundation for this discussion. As I was listening to our last speaker, that is Bwana Amani, is talking about men finding a place just to be. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That's very good. But somebody will be asking, how do I find that place? Yeah, telling me to find a place is very easy, but how do I find that place? So that's where I want to start, with the how. And I'm glad Bwana Amani talked about men being real. And that's what Simon teaches us. And that's what Borale, I've heard him on TV talk about. Being real, unmasking ourselves. That's the most fundamental thing that somehow, and in many ways, hinders men just to be. Now, you cannot be unless you know what you want to be. Otherwise, you'll be anything that what everybody expects you to be. And this is the problem with us men. We try to be what the society wants us to be. Yet God created us in unique ways just to be ourselves. And so we are our own enemies. We are running away from ourselves without inviting us to get in touch and create that awareness. Who am I? Who am I as a man, as a husband? Who am I? As a father, I'm a grandfather. Who am I? And so, and I do a lot of work with the couples. You can guess the people who come for therapy is women. Why is it that many men will shy from coming for therapy? It's because they don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to risk to be known. And if they come, they are hoping that the therapist will help me fix my wife and then I'll be okay. Yeah. But they forget that the only way to be loved, to be appreciated, is to risk being known. And so many men are not willing to be known. They're not willing to empty themselves, to open up. And for me, that is the starting point. So if I was to go and play golf with the brother Simon baby as a solution to my problem. So what's the problem? Going to play golf, yes. What's the problem? Have I really identified the problem? Am I sure I know my problem? So I think many of us need to, first of all, know what your problem is and not live to fulfill the script that the society has prescribed for you. Yeah. When you get married, I always have this assignment that I give to couples when they come for counseling, expectations in 3 different ways. So what do you expect from your wife? What do you think your wife is expecting from you? And what are you expecting from yourself as a man? You discover that many people will have a long list of what they expect from their partners. Yeah. But when you ask them, what do you think your partner expects from you? That's where the problem is, because they have not opened up even to find out what she wants from me. But I know what I want from her, because I'm thinking, if only my needs are met, I'll be okay. It's not possible, Bwana Khalid. In fact, we say research has been done in one of the courses we teach our students in marriage and family therapy by John Gottman. If you read his book on 7 principles that make marriage successful, he says that only 31% of the issues in marriage fall under what we call solvable. 69% will remain unsolvable. Yeah, and this is because of our own differences in personalities. And so if you're not risking to be known, you will live forever with unresolved issues simply because you do not want to be known. So back to your question. So what are some of the common or top issues that mental issues that men struggle with? I think depression is one of the greatest issues that men struggle with in our country, in our churches, in our homes, and around us. Reason being, they have bottled up. They do not want to open up. And so, just like a volcano, yeah, a volcano will sit dormant for a long time, and not because, I'm not saying dead, dormant, because there is an extinct, dormant, and active. So an active volcano is between extinct and active, but there are chances that it might just be active. Yeah. So pressure is building up below, just waiting for a small vent to open up, and voila, lava will flow. And when it flows, everything along the way is going to be, there is no chances of survival because of the intense pressure. You know, those of us who've done geography, how an eruption takes place and the impacts thereof. And so many men wait until it is just too late to open up and talk to somebody. And even when they talk to someone, they may not even be very, very, very open about it. Of course, you have to test the waters to find out whom can I trust with my issues. And that lack of vulnerability is, in my view, what leads many of us to struggle with the depression, to struggle with obsessive compulsive disorders. And nowadays, Khalid, many women that come for therapy, I hear them say, my husband is a narcissist. I'm thinking, so who prescribed this? Where did you get this? Everybody's becoming a narcissist nowadays. Yeah. And so, and when you look at it, you realize that, it's just because we have not learned to be vulnerable with each other. And I'm expecting that if my needs are met, I'll be okay, as opposed to, what do you want? How can I be a blessing to you? Yeah. How can we grow together, work together, as opposed to me working for you? Yeah. As opposed to me curing you, how can I care? Not even care for you, but care with you. We are so good when it comes to caring for other people, but we have very little time to take care of ourselves. And finally, I like using this word caretaker and ask people, what's the meaning of the word caretaker? Of course, as a teacher, I want to ask you, Khalid, caretaker, who's a caretaker?
Okay, from my understanding, caretaker, and because I live in an apartment,
Yes.
it's I think it's someone who is responsible to manage that property, right? And someone who is there for you to communicate with regarding if there's any challenges or any issues that you might be going through. Yeah. they might not necessarily clear that problem, but at least you communicate. Like they are like a medium of communication. Yeah. And I think also it's more of a person who is like a support, just in case if you don't have anyone to turn to, then I think they can be able to give you the help. Maybe that's just my perspective.
It's a good one, but suppose I told you that there are just two meanings. One, think of caretaker as a caregiver, one who gives care to others, one who gives the care. And then a caretaker as one who receives care. Caretaker, you take care from others, receive, care recipient, as opposed to caregiver. So the meaning that you've given me is that of a caregiver, one who looks after, who is a steward, one who is a manager. But many times we fail to realize that you can write that word, not just as one, but two words, caretaker, one who receives care. You take care from others. And many of us are not good at receiving care from others, men especially. We've been made to believe that mwanamume ni jasho, you have to work very hard. You don't have even to show your emotions. You have to be tough. But then in your toughness, who looks after you? So if we are willing to be caretakers, not caregivers, but care recipients, we receive nurturance from other people. In my view, and what my interaction with my students and my clients, I realized that that is a stepping stone to being vulnerable and even to learning to receive care from other people. Yeah, the key thing is, can I be vulnerable to receive care from other people, as opposed to being there for other people? Can I accept other people to be there with me when I need them? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. And I think that it's quite loud that now I understand what a caretaker is. Yeah, and let's kindly be ready to give care, right? And let's talk about it. And if I understood you very well, also that men, we should try to be vulnerable, and let's because you are a representative of married men out here who could be struggling with some of the issues they're going through in their marriages, and maybe they don't have the opportunity or probably the confidence to talk about their issues. Yeah, and sometimes they end up now veering off from the marriage and engaging in other things that some of them maybe it's like a coping. So thank you so much, Dr. for really illustrating that. And maybe I can ask the same question to Ian Kiplagat, now being a youth. What are some of the mental health concerns that youth actually go through out here, especially right now in the context of Kenya? Ian? Ian, do we have you here? Okay. All right. I think when Ian comes back, we will ask him that question. The next question is going to be for all panelists, right? And it's quite an important question because it's all about our well-being, right? And this question is, putting the spotlight on the shoe bearer, yeah, or the shoe wearer. What needs to be done by boys and men themselves to raise awareness on their well-being or men's mental health generally? I'll repeat the question. Putting the spotlight on the shoe wearer. What needs to be done by boys and men themselves to raise awareness on their well-being or men's mental health generally? So I'll start with Mr. Robert Burale. I can see that you can now turn on your video. Yes, karibu sana.
All right, thank you. As I was just saying, I was having my tea, then you caught me off guard, but that's fine. I think the first thing is to do what we are doing now. We have talked. There are people watching. There are people online. It's like network marketing. We have spoken. Now we know the difference between a caretaker and a caregiver. I believe that is what people will be discussing in their WhatsApp groups this evening. So the fact that we are already talking, we are making people aware. and it's to talk into a safe place, but also to have representation in government, in the church. You see, and I'm a pastor as well, and Reverend Bevi will also, I hope you'll agree with me, and Aman is also a church guy. The truth of the matter is sometimes when people have mental health issues, we equate it first and foremost to a demon. We say, come, we cast you out. So there are men who don't want to start rolling around the church, so they're going back with the so-called demons. Until they commit suicide, then we realize they're dealing with things they have not dealt with. Imagine if somebody told Mr. Amani at 28 that this is a demon, yet 10 years later, he knew his emotions. So government must discuss, and we've had meetings with Reverend Bevi and a few other people to try and see what government will do. Because what happens now is even the men, the boy child feels government has shunned us away. What happens? Then they become angry. They're the ones robbing people in the streets. They're the ones causing harm in the streets because they're saying, we have been rejected by everyone. Government has rejected us. Some fellow men are big gossips. I'll give you an example. We did something called the Man Cave with NTV over the weekend. And at some point when NTV put the flyer, and I'll be very honest, it's open that I'm a man who has gone through divorce. The people who made fun of me most and mocked me were fellow men. Not the women, by the way. It is the fellow men. So even as men, we really need to stand up because one person's car could be public, yours could be private. Either way, don't laugh. When you see fellow men laughing at each other, what are the younger men saying? Kiplangat is younger than most of us. What are they saying? If the grown men are behaving like that, there is no hope for us. So what will they do? They will coil and will be handing the baton of hopelessness from one generation to another generation. But if they see, like I grew up seeing my father and his brothers, there were like 7 brothers working as a team. So I saw the importance of men standing with each other. But sadly, we don't seem to be making those kind of men anymore. You understand? Where we'll say, leaving no man behind. So we are going to be very vocal about it without being mocked. Now, for example, we are doing this here. Somebody somewhere could be listening to what you're saying to take snippets, maybe a fellow man, to try and puncture holes, not realizing we are all stuck somewhere. One is coming with a spanner, another is coming with a bolt, trying to get the car out of the man. So if we are not going to have these conversations, like you see, Man Enough, I think, has graduated over 45,000 people, men, if I got that right, you see, and those men are going out there to talk to other men. If we don't do it for ourselves, imagine nobody will, because the ladies are waiting for us to get ourselves together. You'll be told in church that women are saying there's no men, that we don't have men to marry us because men are dealing with their issues. We only seem to be okay during World Cup. What happens after World Cup? Our children are waiting. Our younger men are waiting. We need to, you see, like what Mr. Amani has said, and he dealt with something at 38. For me, I dealt with a pain that somebody caused me while I was in lower primary school. I dealt with it after 35. But it took another man to tell me it's okay. Show me your scar. But that man showed me some of his scars and I felt, okay, this one is a soldier in the army. This one is like if I go now to Dr. Amos, if he asks me questions, I will feel safe. And I will say, this is what I'm feeling. If we don't talk about it, by the way, Mr. Khalid, we are in problems. We'll have a generation of a 15-year-old right now. All they do is seeing men bashing each other. In 10 years, that 15-year-old will be 25. What's going to happen? If government is all going to do something, if the church is not going to do something, if the family will not do something, where you're saying, "Mwanaume ni kuparara," it's true, that's what we've been told. At the age of 5, you have told me, you can't cry if I fall down. Mwanaume ni kujikaza. Ukilia wasichana watakucheka. Ukilia polisi watakuja wakushike. And then what happens? You told me that at the age of 5. Then at the age of 45 and 55, I will remember what I was told at the age of 5. And that's why we are saying, if we cry, the world will laugh at us. We know of a politician who the world went round that his wife beat him up. What happens? He became a butt of jokes. Yet that is mentally painful for a man to go through that. So if there are other men going through that, they will not talk about it. If there are other men going through that, they will not go to Dr. Amos. They will tell the wife, you go. Once he sorts you out, I will go and pay the bill and tell him, thank you for sorting my wife out. Yet I'm the one who has the problem. Let me have my tea now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Roma. That was quite powerful. So let's pick up each other, man. Let's support each other. I think that was quite powerful. And maybe the same question, I'll pose it to Mr. Amani Maraga. Maybe you can also give us your opinion and maybe your own personal experience to that. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And once Robert has spoken and he's given you 3 sound bites, now you don't know what else to say for everybody else. But I'll try. The question is, putting on the spotlight on the shoe wearer, what needs to be done by boys and men themselves to raise awareness on their well-being and men's mental health generally? I think the first thing, some of the things we've already said. Pastor Simon Bevy has talked about forming community. That's important. A band of brothers, that's important, because if you have intentional community that you build, then that way you start to create safety for your own mental health and awareness. Dr. Amos and Robert have both talked about why we should talk and why we should seek help. I think the only thing I want to add to that is the word courage. And I think in many ways we have been given a very specific definition of the word courage. And it's not even courage, we've been given the definition of the word strong. We've been told as men, be strong, be strong, be strong. But I want to talk about courage, and I want to say that vulnerability is courageous. That it takes courage to be vulnerable. The easier thing to do is to not be vulnerable. The harder thing to do is to be vulnerable. That harder thing needs courage. Every one of us as men here has had to, at one point or another, unless you're a virgin, and if you are, then it's okay. But at one point or another, each man has had to muster some courage and be vulnerable and ask a woman for sex, whether that woman is the wife or a girlfriend, hopefully a wife, for most of us. But it takes courage to be vulnerable. It takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. And I think for me, that's my call to men. Do the harder thing. Be courageous and allow yourself to be vulnerable. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Amos, for that. And maybe Mr. Simon can also be able to give us his perspective on that. Thank you.
As I said, and it's good to meet all of you guys. Really happy for this conversation, and I think Khalifa, this is part of it. This kind of forums where Man Cave and other kinds of conversations in the media. Where we get to talk, but that has been said a lot, and I really appreciate what we are learning from each other. And I think number 2 is just encouragement to be able to seek for help. Dr. Amos, I think it's important for us to realize as men that you don't have to really be in trouble for you to seek help. I was quite involved in politics this last season, and after that I needed to see a therapist just to talk through some of the things I saw. And Dr. Amos, I need to come and see you on a pro bono session. But as men, we need to happily talk about therapy. And, the one-on-one therapy may not, for a lot of men, may feel very intrusive, but also just the group therapy. And that's what I think the intentional communities or programs that Burale runs and I run and several others run, those communities, people open up. I think I've seen people talk about things in Man Enough that I'd never thought men would ever get that vulnerable because they feel safe in that community. But talking about just the shame that goes with mental health issues, I think we need champions. We need champions. And I would want to celebrate Mr. Amani here because on podcast and elsewhere, he has openly talked about his struggles. And when a man who is respected talks openly about what they are going through and some of their challenges, and they give permission to many others. The same with Robert Burale, of course, with the beating that comes with it. But a man has got to pay for vulnerability in some way. But you open the door for others to be able to say, okay, if he's saying that and talking about that, then I could talk about it. And there's some men who have gone through mental health disorders and other challenges, and they need to come out as champions and say, I have been here, I'm a man, and I'm okay to talk about it. I think when my own nephew, committed suicide, I used that opportunity to actually talk to many others, and I still use that to have conversations with boys. And instead of covering that up and looking, we don't want that shame as a family, we openly talked about it, even in the funeral, so that it's a conversation that continues. And it's a disease like any other disorder that or challenges that we face mentally, and it's okay to talk about them. So we need models and champions who can talk about it. And then Dr. Amos and the rest of you from Chiromo, I just want to encourage you to be able to come to some of our places, like places of religion in church. There's ones where we got a therapist who came and trained lay counselors and said, let me train you some basic ways of helping other people, especially when someone, because people tend to think psychiatrists and therapies are very expensive, and they are to a lot of Kenyans. But how do we have more people in the community who can actually talk with others who are going through mild depression and other are beginning to show signs of things that could lead them to mental dishealth? How can we multiply, skills of conversations among lay counselors and community counselors? I think that's one thing I'd like to encourage Chiromo to continue doing. I'm sure you're doing, but to continue doing. And then lastly, for me, is this kind of conversations that Dr. Amos, Amani, Burale, and myself continue to do, deconstructing negative masculinities that make it shameful to be vulnerable and to be human and to be real. We need to challenge that, denounce it, and say, big boys cry as well. Jesus wept, and he did it in public, and it's okay to show your emotions. Doesn't make you less of a man, it makes you more human and humane. Let me leave it there.
Wow, thank you so much. Toxic masculinity, or what's called negative masculinity, right? So thank you so much, Mr. Simon, for that. Quite powerful. So, maybe I can also give Dr. Amos an opportunity to, express his opinion regarding that. What are some of the things that can be done, by boys and men, to raise awareness on their well-being, on men's mental health in general? Thank you, Dr. Amos.
Just listening to Simon, Robert, and Aman, I forgot that I needed to talk. So I got I got lost in the listening. But anyway, it's okay. Yeah, thank you guys. You have really made it so clear to men outside there. They need to be courageous. They need to be vulnerable. They need to be congruent. Is just so key. Just being you, yeah? Allowing you to be you and being in touch with you. I don't know how to really make it clearer than this. And this is what my brothers have just been saying. Can we open up, and allow people to see something that they have never seen in us? Hear something from us that they've never heard before. Yeah. And say, it's you. I thought, we present ourselves as, we have it all. But when you open up your heart to other people, people will be thinking, you mean Pastor Burale, this is what you're going through? Because they think, when they see you, they think that everything is okay. But are they wrong to assume everything is okay? No, it's because we have lied to them. We have done very, very well. In fact, if there is any medal we need to earn as men, is that medal of masking our pain. And we need to unmask it. If we want to move to the next step and be healed and be restored and do what God created us to be. Yeah. And so if I asked any man here right now, do you want, when you have a conflict, do you want to be right or do you want to be loved? Many men will choose to be right. And they'll give you many reasons why they think they are right. And of course, they are right from their own perspective. How about if you decided to listen to issues from the other person's perspective? That's when you realize that both of you are right and both of you need to see things from each other's perspective. So, can we men, and I'm not saying that we don't have to be right, can we find ways of dealing with this obsession of trying to be right and we stick in our heads? We give reasons and we are so good at explaining why things are the way they are. As opposed to, I'm longing for connection with you. I'm longing for appreciation. Many men say, oh, I want respect from my wife. My wife doesn't respect me. She doesn't honor me. I'm thinking, yeah, how can somebody respect you if they really do not know who you are anyway? Yeah. And then men, Pastors Akilambevi and Robert and Aman will tell us that men have this obsession of, I was created to be the leader. The woman must submit. I'm thinking, yeah, you are misquoting scripture, brother man. You need to read it in the context. Submitting yourselves to each other. Learning just the idea of submitting to each other. That's the beginning. For her to love, to submit to you, you learn to submit to her. And as she submits to you and you submit to her, you will love and she will love and so on. And so in the context of our otherness, or togetherness with the other men, let us open up. Let us open up. Let us risk being known and reach out. Cry with your men, your fellow men. I find it very easy, to be honest with you. Today, we are learning CBC, where I'm teaching, and so we were to role play some of the skills that we are supposed to be using from transitioning from what we are doing to CBC. And so I volunteered to talk about my experience. My dad died 20 years ago, and he died on my birthday. And before he died, I just didn't have a good relationship with him. Not because he was a bad father, don't get me wrong, but because I feared him. I just grew up fearing him because I felt I was the scapegoat of the family. I would be beaten more than everybody else. And so I learned to fear him. And by the time he was even dying, he died when I was 40, so you can calculate my age right now. Yeah, so by the time he was dead, can you imagine at 40, I still had this fear. I am 40 years, but I'm still this young 7-year-old boy. And so age doesn't matter if you are not willing to be vulnerable and deal with your issues, family of origin issues, the attachment issues from childhood. You will live with this because I know from my theory and my teaching, attachment is from the grave to, from birth to the grave. So you will live with this insecure attachment with significant others throughout your life if you are not willing to open up and deal with your issues. And so from today, this morning, I'm confessing, I made it clear to my colleagues that I teach with, I think I need to go and seek help, even as Simon plans to come and seek help from me. I need to go and seek help to deal with this grief and loss about my father, because I think there is a lot of unfinished business which is really cropping into my relationship with my sons who are over 20 years. I'm finding it difficult really to open up to them and just tell them that I love them. Sometimes I was always asking myself, I'm also the therapist. You mean you can't just tell your son you love them? Yeah. And all is because of where I'm coming from, lack of vulnerability. Right. And we can talk and talk, and I think we need help, Simon.
Definitely.
We all need help.
That was quite powerful, Dr. Ari. Thank you so much. I think what I picked up from you is that let's just not focus on being right. The objective is to listen. So thank you so much, Dr. Ari. Ian Kiplagat is, are you back? Can you be able to, Ian Kiplagat, are you around? Okay, Ian, maybe, because of time, maybe I should just give you maybe an opportunity to, give us like your own perspective regarding this conversation, yeah? And you can also give us your parting shot regarding, what are some of the 2 habits that you can practice as a man, all right, to contribute to your general well-being or mental, health well-being. Ian?
Thank you, Khalifa, for the opportunity. Dr. Kea mentioned that he might be knowing me. Yes, you are my lecturer in college. So my perspective about this conversation, I think it's something we need to do more often, just to destigmatize mental health in men. I will give my perspective from a youth point of view. One of the challenges we face as young people is having the fear to open up. And that results to us, sometimes indulging in unhelpful ways of coping, like substance use, which will lead to addiction, not only for substance use, but things like gambling. And for example, if someone is struggling with addiction, they become mocked by the society, it perceived like it's an option, like it's something that someone chooses to do, not knowing that it's just the tip of an iceberg. Maybe someone is trying to cope with adverse childhood experiences or depression, from maybe financial issues or societal expectations. So this is a very important conversation, just to normalize that women need to open up more and support each other. Most of the time, what we need is someone who can listen without judging, and that helps. Sometimes you don't even need to maybe have someone giving you solutions, but just venting and talking about what's going on really helps. And I will give an instance where I was vulnerable. And this is a time I was in college, and I remember I approached some of my male lecturers, Dr. Kea being one of them. So just talking about my experiences and, letting it off my chest really helped. And I think that's what I've been giving to the young people I come across in my practice, and also people who are in my personal life, family and friends. Some of the things I do to make sure my emotional and mental wellness is on check, spending time with the people I feel happy around, sometimes taking some time just to bask in the sun, to get that vitamin D, which usually helps to boost mood. Doing things I enjoy doing, reading books, taking nature walks, listening to music. These are things that we do on a daily basis, but most people don't know the impact that it has on our mental wellness. Also educating the people I come across about mental health. It is important to talk about what's going on. It is important to open up about someone's diagnosis without feeling ashamed. But when we have the perception of you will speak up and you're going to be shut down, then we end up perpetuating the stigma, So it's important to note that it is okay, not to be okay, and it is okay to just talk about what's going on. Maybe sometimes some people will find it difficult to open up. Using things like journals or, just standing in front of a mirror and affirming yourself. That's also something that really, really helps when it comes to mental wellness. Thank you, Khalifa.
Thank you so much, Ian. That was quite fantastic. Thank you so much. And I'm pretty sure that we are picking up those ideas. And I hope everyone here can be able to also learn from that. Thank you so much, Ian. Simon, I know we are running out of time, but maybe can you give us maybe your top 2 habits that you can start trying to do from now henceforth, something that is going to help you boost your mental health as a man. What are some of the things that you feel like it's going to help you from now henceforth? Maybe if you picked up so far, or something that you might develop.
I think for me, it's just I've not been sleeping enough, for sure. And I think sleeping enough and resting enough. I think as men, we are so driven. And I know I've not had my 7 hours for a while, so because I'm in school. But just enough rest. I really feel I've not been resting well. And secondly is a place of relaxation, just being able to relax and do something that makes me deal with some stressful situations. So that regular, finding some things. I used to do some games that would really make me relax, but I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm going to look for something that will just give me a lot more relaxation and help me, do you call it distress, or what do you call it, Dr. Amos? But just deal with stress. But maybe because, unfortunately, Khalifa, I may have to run shortly to a class. Maybe I could just say this as my parting shot. Number one, just to congratulate the hospital. You're doing a great job, and you're offering a lot of help for men and women as well. And we commend you for the good work, and we commend the hospital. But secondly, speaking as loudly as I can to all the men out there, let's desist from shaming each other. Shame is a very powerful emotion. When we shame one another, then in a sense we're pushing each other to very dark places. Let's be men who celebrate each other, affirm one another, and support each other. And lastly, I want to say, let's continue to redefine what it means to be a man in a way that is going to be healthy and good for all of us. Let's continue to build vulnerable brotherhood so that we support each other, because even the strongest one of us is weak by himself. Even the strongest one of us is weak by himself. We need each other. And lastly, let's find significance. Let's live for something bigger than just chasing after success. It gets frustrating and gets us not into good places. Let's find significance and purpose. It helps deal with some of the challenges we face. And really just enjoy this and to hang out with you great men. And look forward to the other one. It probably needs to be a lot more than once a year. Thank you.
Absolutely, you're right about that. We actually have it, in fact, quarterly. So once in every 3 months, we'll be having such conversations. So thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Simon, for being with us. And I'm going to let you go. And you have a lovely day. Mr. Amani Maraga, maybe if you don't mind, give us maybe some of your 2 habits that has helped you, boost your mental health. Something that can help someone out there who is struggling and someone who wants to learn how to cope up with some of the issues they're going through. Thank you.
Thank you, Khalifa, Khalid, and again, I think like Dr. Amos Care, listening to you gentlemen is quite good for me as well, and thank you for that. So, Simon has said two of my biggest things, so I'll repeat them because they bear repeating. Then I'll add two others. So one is rest, and rest means just setting aside time to do. You remember that nothingness I was talking about? To do nothing. I think men need to realize the value of rest, because rest is recharge. It's being able to allow your mind, your body, to go to bring your cortisol levels to a very low level, which allows you to breathe. I keep saying man's greatest need is peace. And one of those ways to get peace is rest. And he's talked about sleep. And I think for me, once I started, being intentional about sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night, it changed my life. But I'm going to add two other things. Walking. Listen, it's a simple way to exercise. You don't need money to do it. Anyone can do it in your neighborhood. But I found walking to be such an easy way to de-stress, to lift my mood, to sort out thoughts in my mind, and still boost some of those feel-good hormones. And so I'd say, if anyone is looking for and is able to walk, because I realize there's some who are not able to walk for whatever, maybe health reasons or whatever it is. But if you can be able to walk, and if not walk, just go outside, as Ian said, get some of that vitamin D. It's amazing what it does for people. So I'd say walking. And then the last one I'm going to say is dancing. I feel like it's the lost art and such a mood lifter. And it doesn't matter, you can do it at home. Again, it's something you don't need money to dance. You don't need to be a good dancer to dance. You can dance to your gospel music, you can dance to your rumba, you can dance to your reggae, whatever floats your boat. But I find that, the movement of body, the listening of music, just the reckless abandon that comes with dance is such an easy way to create joy. I had a story of a gentleman who was a slumlord, and he lived in one of the affluent parts of Nairobi. And he got home one day, and one afternoon he got home early. He found his wife busy, so he goes to see the children. They don't even acknowledge him in each of their bedrooms. They're playing video games or on phone or whatever. And he suddenly felt quite alone in his house. And so, in a way to get away from that feeling, he goes to the nearby place where he's a slumlord. And he goes and sees this caretaker. And the caretaker is quick to report a gentleman who was what to do. So the gentleman walks to that man's house. And as he's walking closer to the house, he can hear music playing in the gentleman's house. And remember, this is going to someone whose rent is late. I don't know if any of you has had rent late, but for me, it has been very stressful when it has happened. So this guy goes to find his tenant, and it's a slum, so they don't have like many big doors. So yeah, the door was open, the curtain was slightly ajar next to the door, and he looks inside the room, and there's a steaming ugali on the table. You can smell the mboga being cooked on the stove, and the rumba that is playing in the house. The man and his wife are dancing. Their little baby has held on to the mother's leg, is also dancing in the process. And this man looked at the family that cannot pay him rent, and just remembering where he came from, he realized they had more joy than he had, despite the fact that he had more money, which of course softened the conversation he was going to have with them about their rent. And he was moved by it. And when I heard this story, I realized it's actually dance. It's so simple. But your phone, you can play music with your phone if you don't have a big boombox, and just allow yourself some reckless abandon, whether it's in gospel music, it's in worship, it's in, whatever music you enjoy. I wish more people dance.
I think after this we'll be dancing a lot. Thank you so much, Mr. Amani. That was very, very helpful. I'm going to give, because of time, Dr. Amos, kindly 2 minutes. Just what are some of the 2 habits that you practice that have contributed to your mental well-being, and then you're going to finish with Mr. Robert Burali. Thank you.
Dr. Care, you're muted.
Dr. Care, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. Let me talk about 2 habits that I want to ditch. And then maybe the cause of that, I'll remember to talk about what I need to do. Yeah. 1, stop whining and looking for somebody to blame for my misery. Somebody to blame for my unmet needs. Because I realize that sometimes I do a lot of that under stress, looking for somebody to blame for my misery. Yeah. So just learning to be honest with myself and do a lot of exercise. I realized that I've not been doing exercise for quite some time. And so, when COVID started, and this is an excuse, whining. Teaching online, so you spend so much of my time in the house as opposed to going out, meeting people and standing for 3 hours teaching my students. And so sitting online has somehow compromised on my mental well-being. And so I need to do a lot of exercises and even dance. My brother is saying Rumba, yeah, dance kidogo. Yeah, and then reconnect. Now, this is what I'm going to do, reconnect with my sons. I realized that, I remember one time in 2008, when I was going out for my studies, I told my son, who was about 18 years, if you were to change anything, write down some of the things that you wish your dad could do different. And I still have that list of the 17 things that he changed. Khalid, have I really changed so much in those areas? No, I'm still struggling. So I think I need to revisit that. Yeah. In fact, the only thing I need to find out, can you do now the assessment? Now it's about 12 years down the line. How have I fared? And I know what it's going to tell me. So why should I be told that you haven't done much? I think I just need to be wise enough and to begin to do what I am avoiding to do. I know the excuses that I create for myself as a man, like any man here. Yeah. So I need to avoid creating excuses for myself. And then finally, I need to go for supervision. I could be struggling with burnout and vicarious trauma by meeting so many people, dealing with people's issues and forgetting to be a good caretaker of myself. So I need to go for supervision. I need to sit with someone, kina Robert Burali, kina Amani, kina Ian. I don't know whether they will come to you, but we'll talk about that. I see so many people, Simon Baby. I've seen somebody else, even Dr. Karega Mushiri and others. So I need to seek help. I come to Khalid, we share issues. So thank you so much, Bwana Khalid. Once again, I appreciate you having me together with this great man and just having this time to talk. It's an emotional catharsis for me, especially. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was quite powerful. I hope we will stop whining as men. The last maybe panelist, Robert Burali, maybe quickly just give us those 2 habits that maybe you feel like maybe we can benefit from and has helped you.
Thank you. Thank you, Khalid. And I was just texting Gadoni and I'm saying you're such a great moderator. Keep it up. I think the one thing I need to do what Daktari has said is also to take care of myself, to really take care of myself. Sometimes I've realized I run away from myself and run into work and work and work and work. Like in the last 2 weeks, I've been in 3 countries, just work and releasing. But I think I need to sit and refuel, like Amanda is my good friend. I can travel to his house and say, let's just talk. I come to Dr. Amos because you have helped many people. So you have what you call confidentiality. I can sit with you and just release. I think leading while bleeding is something that some of us do, you understand? But time has come that we have to stop running, because if we continue running, we will get to a place and we can't run anymore. Our legs will be very weak. And number 2, I think I need to forgive myself more. Sometimes I blame myself too much from my past mistakes. I think I need to get to a place, hey, Robert, now forgive, go on, move on kind of thing, you understand? And my place of spirituality is just to lean on Jehovah God. Without God, I am just finished. It's just going to that place and say, God, it is me again, standing in the need of prayer, and just release. I think, and sleep. I don't sleep well. I think I do 4 hours every night. I need to do at least 7 hours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Robert. I think you've also mentioned something quite important. We are focused too much with work that we forget to live. Yeah. And I think, thank you so much for just illustrating that. I want to say thank you to every single panelist that were able to give their perspectives and answer the questions, and, just being a mirror for some of the people who out here are struggling to, to talk about the issues. You are celebrated today, and I want to say thank you so much for your participation and for your patience and for setting time. As Chiromo Hospital Group, we are saying thank you, and we are offering you a free tour to our Bustani branch. The panelists kindly, we are offering you a free tour to our Bustani branch along with Angari 37 Road in Lavington, and we can't wait to have you. And for anyone who had questions to any of our panelists, kindly you can feel free to reach us to any of our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and then we can directly ask the panelists, and then they can give us a response and we can communicate back. I just want you to know this is a fact that unlike International Women's Day, which is on 8th March, International Men's Day is not officially recognized by the United Nations. Yeah, did you know that? And it's something that I know it's quite surprising for most of us, for all of us, but I think it's something that we need to understand so that we can be able to embrace this day when it comes as men, so that we can celebrate each other. Yeah. And I just want to say thank you to every one of us who tuned in. I've seen ladies here. I've seen also a lot of gentlemen. So I want just to say thank you to everyone. And that's the end of our session today. And I hope you've learned something from any of the panelists. Yeah. And we hope to see you in the next 3 months. Yeah. And we can reconnect again and have more conversations about men's mental health and how we can be able to improve our lives in general as men. So thank you so much, everyone, for this impeccable conversation, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next. Thank you, and have a lovely day.
Thank you for having us, and great moderation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As you come for the tour, prepare for tea as well. Prepare some tea for us.
Noted.
Thank you. Thank you, Khalid. Thank you, Borale. Thank you, Amani. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you,
Thank you very much, Dr. Amos, and thank you, Robert, and Ian as well. Very.
Cheers.